Welcome. Thanks so much for joining me here for another week. I'm Tim Fortescue, an IFS trained practitioner. Actually, this weekend just finished my level two training for IFS, each level, level one, level two, and you can even go on to level three. Is about 100 hours of in Zoom or class work. And so I'm grateful to have that under my belt and have some more training to bring that and offer to you. And so I hope that what you find here is helpful. My focus is spirituality and just walking with along folks in that journey or just in general, coming alongside as an ally. If you're curious, you can find more about me on my website, faithfullygrowing.com. And while you're over there, I encourage you, if you haven't already, to sign up for my free IFS guided meditations, as well as check out my donation-based products. All of the products that I offer, which includes a weekly Zoom meeting so that you can ask me your questions in person, is included in that. And I have a sliding scale of $25 to $50 monthly to donate to my the nonprofit aspect of my coaching practice that helps keep IFS accessible to all. And know too, if finances are tight, I also have a sliding scale of between $5 and $25 for all of the products that I offer. And I'm adding content on a, if not weekly, bi-weekly, or at the very least a monthly basis there. And so would love to interact with you in some of those offerings if it makes sense and it helps keep that vision of keeping this model that has been so healing to me and others accessible to all. As we go throughout our time today, as usual, if you have questions, type them in the chat. And if you're watching a recording, go ahead and engage in the chat too, and I'll keep track of that. And we'll make a list of the questions. And if there are any, we'll come back and address those when I do a Q&A at the end of our time. And today, what I'm going to do, and before I do that, like, share, subscribe, follow, whatever makes sense to help others have access to this content and this community. And know that you can always send me an email to tim@faithfullygrowing.com if you prefer to send me questions or engage with me there. And so today I'm going to lead us in an exercise that I actually experienced this weekend at my training. And it's a simple way to map your parts. And the focus of this last weekend was on IFS and spirituality. And so what I'm going to do is lead you in a simple, very quick spiritual connection inquiry. And you can actually use this for many other things. And so if it makes sense, make it your own, even today. But in the case of spiritual connection, I'm just going to ask you, if I was seeing you in person or one-on-one, I would say your name. But I would say, name, what gets in the way of your spiritual connection? And you can insert spiritual connection for other things again, if it makes sense for you. And I'm going to ask that 8 times. And I encourage you to have something to jot down what comes up. Don't think about it, but just the first word or thought that comes into your mind, jot that down. And then I'm going to pause and I'll ask you again. And this gives us an indication of the parts that are coming up around this. The 8 words that come to mind, those thoughts, feelings, actions, or impulses are just like parts. Or maybe it gives you some clarity of some may go together, but will help you map out your parts. And I want to give Ann Cinco credit for this. She was my trainer this weekend, and she did this exercise. or had us do this exercise. And it was helpful for me and others, and I hope it's helpful for you. And so let's just pause and get mindful for a bit. And after I lead us in this inquiry, I'll lead us in a meditation to check in with those parts that come up. And if you're joining live, or again, if you're watching the recording and want to type in some of those parts that come up for you, know that they're welcome. And I'm going to do this right alongside with you, and we'll offer some of my insight of what came up too. So let's just pause for a bit and center ourselves. Your feet on the floor. And just turn inward and notice what comes up. When I say, what gets in the way of your spiritual connection? Just jot down the first thing that comes up. Then I'm going to ask for the second time, what gets in the way of your spiritual connection? And a third time, what gets in the way of your spiritual connection? What gets in the way of your spiritual connection? And sometimes it takes a minute. You're not even thinking, but it takes a minute for it to come. And so just take your time. Number 5, fifth time. What gets in the way of your spiritual connection? What gets in the way of your spiritual connection? And I'll ask you 2 more times. What gets in the way of your spiritual connection? Then finally, what gets in the way of your spiritual connection? And what came up for you? Just begin to look back over your list and reflect, and I'll go over mine briefly. First, there was a fear. Just a fear of letting go and embracing that spiritual connection. And remember, there are no bad parts here. They're all doing the best that they can. Number 2, doubt and a fear of mystery and not knowing. Number 3, a frustration that it's not tangible. It's kind of hard to make sense of that spirituality. Number 4, this was interesting for me, is just I'm not supposed to be happy. in my spirituality, and I associate that with like this angry God that doesn't want me to be happy. Number 5, tradition. Just the way it's always been done, and kind of a part of me just being turned off to that, wanting something new. Number 6, hurt. Just being hurt in the past, not wanting to encounter that again. Number 7, which is similar to my fear of mystery, but the need for certain, this way or this way, nothing in between, and being uncomfortable in that. Then finally, just thoughts of people that I interact down that road, a lot of them in the past. Just a part of me that doesn't want to interact with those kind of people. So what came up for you? Just kind of take a look at that. If you want to type it in the chat, you can. Or if you're watching a recording, I would love to engage with you there. But I hope that this exercise was helpful. And now just know that whatever you wrote down, that first of all, this inquiry is a good trailhead, and it gives you parts to explore. And some of them may end up being the same part that go together, but it gives you something to nail down instead of this ambivalence, like they're parts, which parts are coming up. It really gives you some concretes to stay curious about. And so let's just pause again for just a few minutes. Not going to take a ton of time here, but look at your list. Just be aware of those parts. How are they doing? Where do you notice them? See how it is for them to be seen and heard and brought to the forefront. Now, as you're noticing, just how you're feeling toward these parts that have come up here. And maybe there's one part in particular that is wanting the attention. Just key in on it. How are you feeling toward it? See if you could send it just a drop of compassion or curiosity. And know that if you're unable to do that, it's likely another part that may be reacting to this part. For example, with mystery, for me, a fear of that, there's a part that says, no, you don't. You can deal with the mystery. And so be aware of those parts that react to the parts that may be down, and just see if they can soften back and give you some space, and maybe even jot down beside fear of mystery, well, there's a part that really doesn't like this idea. And just let that part know that you see it. And then turn back to your part or parts that were needing the attention. If that part's able to soften back, that is reacting, let it know that you're grateful for its courage and you're not going to forget about it. Then turn back to the original part, or maybe it's that group of parts, and how are you feeling toward them now? Can you send them just a little curiosity? No agenda here. We're just grateful that they surfaced and we want to get to know them. Just see what they may want to share. my parts. Some want a deeper connection, spirituality, some don't. They're all young, doing the best that they can. Let's just spend a minute before we wrap up, see if there's anything else that your parts may be voicing or that you want to say to them in that container of just a little bit of curiosity, compassion. See if they know who you are as they're giving you some space, and that you can see them. And there's a different perspective here. See if there's any other new insights before we wrap up. And thank you so much, Desi Lee. Hope I'm getting your name right. Forgive me. Send me an email or let me know how to say it right if I'm not, because I really want to. But thanks so much for your courage and that fear of financial instability. And you could say, what, Desi Lee, what are you fearful of? You could do that 8 times and see what insight, but have compassion for that part that has fear if you can, and see if you can get to know it more. See if it wants to share more about those fears and concerns, that it's not alone, it's welcome. So with that, let's just let your parts know we're going to wrap up for now. And when it feels right, just go ahead and bring your attention back to the present moment where you are. You can open your eyes if they were closed, and see if you could take just a sense of a drop of curiosity and compassion with you in your life, and welcome those parts that may still be struggling too. And let them know that they're valid. It may have been a long time since they've had a voice, and you're not going to forget about them. And let your parts know that you'll be back, and try to stay with that commitment, because they've been abandoned a lot. And they need to know you more. And as they do, they'll trust you, and there can be more balance in our system and in our we're beloved human beings. And so I hope you take that with you. So I'll hang around for just a bit. If you have other questions or comments, go ahead and type them in the chat. If you're watching a recording, type your questions in too, and I'll engage with them next time. I do this each Tuesday. And if you want to know more about me, head over to my website, faithfullygrowing.com, and you can get 25 free IFS meditations, as well as all of my products are donation based on a sliding scale of $25 to $50 monthly. And if you're hitting hard times, there's a sliding scale of $5 to $25 monthly, but really want to keep IFS accessible. That includes a weekly drop-in on Zoom, where you can actually interact with me. And so would love to see you sometime if it makes sense. But so grateful for this community, for your courage in joining me here. Reach out, send me an email, tim@faithfullygrowing.com if you need to. But have a great week, and I hope to see those that can join next week. And grateful to those who are watching the stream. Let me know your thoughts in the chat there. But so grateful for this community, and have a great week.